Welcome back, friends. This is episode 103, and today we're going to talk about detox, cleanses, and I specifically want to talk about how our body's natural detox pathways occur. Okay, we're into spring. We're going into spring, right? A lot of people I'm seeing them. I don't know, maybe you guys are seeing them too. Detoxes and cleanses being advertised. So because normally after winter season, right, sometimes we have slowed things down a little bit, right? Like naturally there's less green stuff growing outside. Sometimes people move into warmer foods and soups and less vegetables. And so our digestion can get a little bit sluggish, right? So here lately, I've been teaching a lot of classes about spring medicinal plants and weeds, so my mind's kind of going there. But when we're talking about coming into spring and increasing our vegetables, increasing our digestion, we're also trying to increase our detoxification pathways. Okay, and so I want to talk today a little bit about how that works and areas to kind of pay attention to. Okay, so when I talk about the organs of elimination, I'm really talking about things like that are all connected in our detox pathway. So things like our kidneys, right? Our kidneys determine or help with elimination through urination. Our liver's a big one. We all hear about the liver and detox. Our liver and our digestive system. Okay, so our digestive tract, and especially our lower colon and our bowels, to make sure that we're eliminating things through our bowel movements. The lymph system, and we've talked about the lymph system in the past, but our lymph vessels, what moves our immune cells, moves those toxins through and to help with elimination. And then through our lungs, right, as we breathe, that belly breathing, abdominal diaphragmatic breathing, the bigger breaths, the more we exhale those toxins. We know that we exhale CO2, but there are other things that we eliminate. And then through our skin, right? We know that we want to be sweating. If people have a tendency to not sweat, or they can't sweat, or they only sweat in certain parts of their body, that tells me that that organ of elimination needs some support. Okay, so when I'm talking about the detox pathways, I want to lay out those organs of elimination because there are things you can do to help support them. But the overall picture is that if you think of your body, your detoxification pathways with all those organ systems, if you think of it kind of like a bathtub, and I think I may have mentioned this before, but I think it's worth mentioning again. So if you think of that detoxification as a functional piece in the bathtub, it would be the drain. Okay, and the faucet that provides the water into the bathtub, that would be everything that we're exposed to on a regular basis, things in and on our food, like preservatives in our food that increase the shelf life, pesticides on our foods, things in our chemicals in our water, in our air, things that we put on our body. All of those are things that we're adding to that bathtub, right? Those are all like our toxins or toxicants. And so sometimes, right, that bathtub doesn't have to be overflowing in order for us to feel in order for us to feel symptoms. But when it is overflowing, most folks are experiencing symptoms. Okay, now those symptoms can be very systemic. So they may be things like headaches, joint pain, right? Changes in smell, changes of intolerance to smells and chemicals. And then they may be things that, people don't even know, or like they think this, I don't know, easier to tolerate, like for women, changes in our hormones, our thyroid, our estrogen, because a lot of those toxins can be endocrine disruptors. And so sometimes it's hard to gauge, like, is your bathtub halfway full or 3/4 full, you know, if it's not overflowing. And so usually after the winter, right, because things have kind of slowed down for a lot of folks, making sure that that drainage system, the detox pathway, is very efficient is important into helping to make sure that your bathtub is fully emptying on a regular basis, or that you're only maintaining maybe like 1/4 of that bathtub full instead of a half or 3/4, right, just before overflow. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's sort of our overall picture of our detoxification pathways, the individual pieces. So yes, our liver is a huge component of the detox pathway. Our liver takes toxins that we're exposed to, and it goes through things called phase 1 and phase 2. It creates those most toxins that we think of, like that we ingest either in on our body that we inhale. They are often fat soluble. I lost your picture. They're often fat soluble. And so what our liver does, it has the task of making those things water soluble, okay? Because if they are water soluble, then we can eliminate them through our urine, we can eliminate them through our bowels, right? And through our stool. So if the liver is sluggish, like with fatty liver, with infections of the liver, with even sometimes people have had gallbladder surgery, sometimes their liver can be a little bit sluggish if they've had their gallbladder removed, then your liver may not be keeping up with the amount of toxins that you're putting in, right? In order to make them become water soluble or anyway, once the liver makes those toxins water soluble, okay, they can actually so the natural effect of things is the liver goes through phase 1, phase 2, makes them water soluble, okay? Sometimes they will add in phase 2, sometimes they will add amino acids to it to make it easier to eliminate. They kind of neutralize a lot of those toxins. And then they do go back into the bloodstream, and oftentimes they're filtered through the kidneys or they're filtered through the rest of the digestive tract, okay? So if the organs of elimination are slow, so say like for the digestive tract, if people aren't having 1 to 2 bowel movements a day, then that area is a little bit slow, so it can be recirculated, all right? So those toxins that your body's trying to get rid of, or if you're doing a detox and it's pulling them out of the out of your fat cells, your skin, hair, bones, it's creating that water solubility so that it's supposed to be headed towards elimination, but it does that through entering our bloodstream or entering our lymph again. And so if the kidneys are a little bit slow, if we've had kidney damage, or we suspect kidney damage, or kidney infections or kidney stones that can create scar tissue, can inhibit the kidneys from filtering well, then those toxins are going to recirculate, okay? And they recirculate to the brain. If the liver is sluggish and it can't create that water solubility of those toxins, and it can't attach those molecules, then it stays fat soluble, then it'll recirculate and deposit in the nervous system or deposit in our fat cells. Okay, so this is why sometimes when your bathtub sort of starts to overflow, we see those neurological symptoms. So we can see things like headaches, migraines. You can even see tremors in some folks. You can see changes in our memory, right? Changes like challenges with recall in our memory or in our speech. That can be symptoms of a detox or overflowing bathtub because of that recirculation, because the organs downstream are not doing their job. right? So if the lungs have scar tissue, if we're not breathing deep enough to help to eliminate things, again, while they're water soluble, it's a lot easier for us to remove them in our breath, because you'll notice, like, if you ever, when we breathe, you know how you can fog up a mirror or fog up a window? Because when we are exhaling, you're also releasing water molecules. And so you can have particulates in those water molecules, because there's a lot of water that's exiting our body with the CO2 on exhale. And so I think it's really important to understand all the components of that detox pathway, of that drain in your bathtub. Because if one of them is a little bit slow, blocked, clogged, you're increasing your chances for that recirculation, right? So the same thing with the skin. If we recirculate those toxins, because we're not eliminating them through the bowels or the kidneys well, it can recirculate into the lymph, and then we, see things like eczema, psoriasis, acne, right? That may be in flares or out of control. And so making sure, that our skin, that organ of elimination, is properly removing things through, usually it's sweating, that's is important, so that we're not getting stuck in that, in a sluggish system. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. So things that we can do, right? Definitely making sure you're having regular bowel movements. So increase fiber, increase water. That's always my first line. Okay. A lot of folks will say they're constipated, and I will ask, how much water do you drink? And I will tell you 9 times out of 10, people will say, I don't drink enough water. Okay, how much is that? And I know, I always feel like I'm always harping about drinking water, but it's one of the things that's so easy, or it's simple, may not be easy for folks, but it's a simple thing that you can do that's so important for our health.
When they say I don't drink enough water, do you like dive in, like, no, what does that mean? Like, how many ounces a day are you drinking? And what is their response?
Some of them will tell me they don't know, or they'll say, oh, I drink a couple of glasses of water a day. And I'll be like, okay, what size? Like, are we talking 8-ounce juice glass? Are we talking like a 32-ounce glass? Like a water bottle. And they'll be like, oh, I drink like maybe 2 water bottles a day. And I'm like, okay, so we have to quantify it. And part of that is, like, we don't always recognize, one, how much water we need, but like you say, oh, I drink a, coffee cup of water a day, and I may drink, several of those. Well, this is like 10 ounces. Because they used to teach, right? You should drink 8 glasses of water a day, 8 to 10 glasses of water a day. So I find people still, like, believe that, and like, oh, I drink like 2 glasses of water a day. And I'm like, okay, I need ounces. We've got to measure this out.
It's just half your body weight, right? In ounces.
Yes. Yeah. So what's that?
It's so much easier to track that. Like, oh, I only need 64 ounces instead of like 8 glasses of water a day. Like, who's keeping up with that?
I don't know. I want people to quantify it. Half your body weight in ounces a day. So for like for a 100-pound person, they may only need 50 ounces a day. For a 200-pound person, they need 100 ounces of water a day. So our water requirements are different. Now, if people weigh more, I usually don't have people drink more than a gallon of water a day. Okay. More than a gallon of water a day, which is 128 ounces, can actually dilute your kidneys too much and cause problems. So yes, we need water, but we need appropriate amounts of water. Yeah. That will help to, eliminate toxins in the kidneys, support the kidneys a little bit better, and help them do their job. Right. And people will say to me, well, gosh, if I'm drinking that much water, I'm going to be in the bathroom peeing all the time. If that's the case, then we still need to work on your kidney support and figure out your kidneys should be concentrating that urine. So if, you drink a bottle of water and then you feel like you're having to pee right away within, a short amount of time, like a couple minutes or 10 minutes, and you're not able to wait an hour or two after you drink that water to urinate, then there's an issue there. Okay. And we've got to identify what that issue is, because then your kidneys are not working that great. Yeah. Because a lot of people there's not a lot of symptoms with kidney problems, right? So they don't know that maybe their kidney is a little bit sluggish, or their kidney's not, that organ of elimination isn't optimal. And so that kind of, gives us a little bit of a window as to if your kidneys are working well or not.
Yeah.
And let's see. Oh, okay. So we talked about for the lungs, right? That deep breathing, that abdominal breathing. The more that you can completely fill your lungs with air, the better they will eliminate toxins for you. Okay. So we're going to revisit that, man. Make sure you're not just breathing from your chest, but you're breathing from that diaphragm, from that lower abdomen. And to help to detox the skin, like I said, sweating is awesome. I like for folks to try and sweat with activity, with movement, right? If you can sweat with movement, you're on the right track. Now, there are different levels of movement, right? Some folks may not be able to do a lot of movement if they have a lot of pain in their joints, if they don't have the energy and they have like a chronic fatigue picture. For those folks, sometimes doing things like a sauna, or doing intense, like a little bit higher intensity movement, so that you are maybe not moving for a long time, but moving, a lot in a short amount of time to really kind of get that sweating happening. Yeah. I know a lot of people like saunas. There's dry and there's wet saunas. I think there's advantages to them, but that is not my preference as far as like, oh yeah, I sweat, but only in the sauna. Okay, great. But
I do CrossFit, but I'm just not like a sweater. Like I don't, unless it's like hot, like I don't sweat a lot doing CrossFit. So I've started not, and it wasn't for sweating, I'm going to be honest about that. It was for mobility. I started doing hot yoga, and girl, I will sweat in that because it's so hot and humid up in there, but I'm still moving, right? Doing yoga.
yes.
Not easy.
It's not easy. Yeah.
So is that good enough? Like once a week? I mean, yeah, like I work out, but I don't sweat a lot unless it's hot. Is that ideal? Like get a good hard sweat session in at least once a week, or what?
Once a week would be perfect. Okay. Yeah. So sometimes if people like, you have a long history with CrossFit, right? Your body is trained for CrossFit, right? So it doesn't surprise me that even like a tough CrossFit workout, that you're not sweating a lot, because your body has created those patterns, right? To optimize those movements to be the most efficient. Right. And when it does that, so we see this thing with like marathon runners, right? Like they train, and oftentimes the longer they train, sometimes the less they sweat. So you've got to change it up. You've got to do something different. And when your body's exerting in a different pattern, oftentimes you'll start seeing sweating will start happening again. Yeah. hot yoga is perfect because yeah, you're increasing the temperature and you are doing different movement. But yeah, it is kind of the beauty of both worlds, right? It's not like you're just in a sauna sitting there like, hey, sweat's happening to me. It's like, oh no, I'm still actively sweating and it's pouring out. You're opening that organ of elimination. Yeah, excellent. Let's see. So I wanted to address these things because when we're seeing, one more thing. So oftentimes when people will start a detox, right, because it's like, oh, it's spring, I'm going to do a cleanse, I'm going to do a detox. If they don't go through and make sure that these organs of elimination are opening and that drain, is draining well and not clogged, sometimes they will get worse before they get better. And then they're like, oh no, I'm not ever doing a cleanse again, right? It was like a bad experience, I'm allergic to it, or blah blah blah. And it's like, well, you didn't do the groundwork first. And everybody can do the groundwork before you jump into an over-the-counter cleanse or detox, right? Yeah, or work with somebody, work with a practitioner to help you do the groundwork so that so things don't get worse before they get better. Yeah. And it just helps our body be a little bit more efficient at eliminating waste, right? Yeah. We're exposed to waste all the time. And so even though I think this is kind of timely for spring, this is something we should be thinking about all year long, is that the detoxes and the cleanses, I think, are beneficial, especially if people kind of do it sort of on a couple times a year. And it helps to drain that bathtub 100%. But if you're not doing the maintenance and supporting these organs of elimination on a regular basis, where it's like, hey, I'm emptying my bathtub 100%, but then I'm letting it fill up 100%, and you're like, okay, I could be just maintaining a lower level of toxicity, and my health would be much better, right? Like your body, your cells, your organ systems would recover more efficiently.
So what does that lifestyle look like of maintaining a lower toxicity load? I mean, I guess
yes.
It's like, are you going to recommend like, well, get a Berkey water filter, eat organic if you're going to eat the outside of the pill, like that's what I'm asking.
Yeah. Yes. So, to maintain, I'm usually having people make sure that they're trying to avoid exposure, right? So that faucet isn't full blast every day, day after day. So reducing exposure in our water, yes, a Berkey filter, something, that filters out those toxins, those solutes, the chemicals. A lot of the filters don't always filter out the chemicals. They will filter out bacteria, amoebas, viruses, like all the stuff that could kill you. But they don't always filter out the prescriptions. So things like, the Berkey water filter. There's another one, we'll have to link it in the notes because I don't know what it's called off the top of my head. I think there's an Alexa Pure, and I think it's Alexa Pure, but don't quote me on that. But you can see comparisons. And so they will filter out the chemicals, the prescriptions that are in the water. That's what we're trying to avoid. Yes, again, how do we get our toxins? It's what we eat, what we put in our body, what we put on our skin. So your food is very important. Checking out the Dirty Dozen or the Clean 15 on the EWG.org, the Environmental Working Group, because that list does change every year. But things that we think are healthy that are usually at the top of the list, of like, oh, I think spinach is healthy, right? And spinach is one of those you need to buy organic, because it is loaded in pesticides and toxicants. Strawberries is one that everybody, like, I think the majority of people love strawberries when it's strawberry season. But again, it is so high in pesticides in order for them to grow the strawberries and get them to market to sell them that beautiful, when they look beautiful, is not worth buying conventionally grown strawberries. And so or if there are things that you can't get organic, try to buy at local farmers market, grow yourself, or minimally do like an apple cider vinegar wash, right? Where you're washing your vegetables. There's research that shows that vinegar can actually denature the proteins in pesticides. So we can't really wash pesticides off with water, but if you put them in a bath and soak them with some apple cider vinegar and water mixed, it can denature those, and so that does reduce your exposure. So think of things like that you put in your body, right? Trying to not eat things that have a really long shelf life. So things that are often preserved, like boxes or food that we buy in a box or a bag, have a lot of preservatives in them. Those preservatives are chemicals that our body doesn't recognize, and it has to eliminate them or store them so that it doesn't hurt you. So I usually tell folks the longer the shelf life, the more chemicals that are in it. Skin, things that we put on our body, right? So beauty products, hygiene stuff, things, shampoos, conditioners, moisturizers, lotions, so those are regulated by the FDA, but the criteria for what is toxic from the FDA is very, very loose. And so there are a lot of things that can be on our products that we put on our skin, makeup, lipstick, nail polish, that can disrupt our endocrine system, disrupt our hormones, that are toxins that our body has to eliminate. Right? Our skin is our largest organ. And so if we are putting, sometimes I'm going to say conventional lotions, or like makeups, or even just shampoos, you're increasing the toxins in your body. So trying to find things that are paraben free, sulfate free, let's see, those are usually the top of the list, but I tell folks if they are glycols in them, those are things that our body has to eliminate. So
also another big one.
Yes. So we have to be very cautious about those things. Did you say fragrances? Yes. So you have to think, okay, our organs of elimination are what we breathe, right? Our lungs can take a toll. So if you're buying a lot of like laundry detergents that have a lot of smelly stuff in it, I don't know, sometimes those Gain commercials really, really bug me, because they're like, oh, it's like 3 months later and it still smells. And I'm like, oh, that's not really what we want.
Yeah.
Or like Glade plugins or air fresheners, right? If it isn't an essential oil or natural flowers or something, that is chemicals that you are putting into your air and that you and your family are breathing. And so then that's right affecting your lungs and boxing your lungs. So it's harder to eliminate those toxins. So being cautious of those and lowering that exposure on a regular basis is going to help to maintain lower toxin levels in your body, and then keeping those organs of elimination open and functioning optimally. How does that sound?
Good. Is that what you have?
That's what I wanted to share with you guys today.
Okay. And don't you have a detox program?
We do. Yes. So we do have a 4-week detox program that we walk you through how to support the organs of elimination. It does have some supplementation to kind of kickstart the movement with those organs of elimination, specifically the bowels, specifically the kidneys and the lymph. And then we actually go through and look at all the areas in our life that can be creating toxins, right? So we look at the food, we look at our thoughts, right? We look at the products in your home that, yeah, could be creating more of a toxic load for you and your family. And so, yes, it's our 4-week holistic detox program, which you can find on our website at thriveandalignedhealing.com. It's still on there. There's the link in the description of what we go through. And if you guys need a little extra support, yeah, it's one of those things, like I said, once you've understood or once you begin to understand and even experience like a holistic detox in all the areas that contribute to a higher toxic level, right? Like all the things in our environment that creates that fuller bathtub, and what we can do on a regular basis to open up that drain. Yeah, oftentimes we notice a significant difference in our health just because you're carrying a lower toxic load.
Yeah. I think we made a PDF, right? And then we break down every room of the house and identify toxins and then things you can do for each room of the house to make it a more toxic free environment.
Exactly, because it's a process, right? This isn't usually something that you can just like do overnight and like overhaul everything and get a little bit overwhelming. And so yeah, there's an ebook that comes with it that helps you kind of like walk through the different spaces, yeah, in your house, the different organ systems, the different thought processes to help support, yeah, a better health and lifestyle, less toxic all around.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Carmen.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, guys, we'll catch you next week.